Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into AI in courts and tribunals.
Yeah, and we've got this new draft document from UNESCO
Oh,
called the UNESCO Guidelines for the Use of AI Systems in Courts and Tribunals.
okay.
And it's bringing up some pretty interesting questions about what justice is going to look like in the future.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about AI right now, but this isn't just some tech trend.
Yeah.
This is about how AI is actually being used
Right now.
in courts right now and how it might affect your access to justice in the future.
Exactly. And it's not just, something way out there in the future either.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. AI tools are already being used to help judges manage cases, to translate documents,
Wow.
and even to analyze evidence. But of course, with great power comes great responsibility.
Of course.
And so these guidelines are trying to figure out how we can use this technology responsibly, ethically, and fairly.
Well, and the report starts out with this survey that UNESCO did that found that a surprising 93% of judicial operators are familiar with AI. Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yeah, and what's even more surprising is that 44% are already using tools like ChatGPT in their work.
I know, it's like almost half.
Yeah, but only 9% have formal guidelines or training on how to use these tools responsibly. So it seems like we're kind of jumping headfirst into this AI revolution without really knowing how to navigate it.
That's one of the things that this report is trying to deal with, and it doesn't just talk about the theory of it. It gets into actual examples of how AI is being used in courts all over the world.
Okay, well, give us the inside scoop.
Okay, so one example is Brazil's Supreme Court.
Okay.
They're using this AI system called
Victor.
to process tons of appeals and to flag the really important cases.
So it's helping them to kind of sift through all the paperwork?
Yeah, it's helping them to prioritize their work.
Oh, wow. Okay, what else?
Well, then there's India's Supreme Court.
Okay.
They use SUVAS, which is this AI-powered software that translates legal documents into 10 different languages.
That's incredible. Imagine the impact that has on access to justice for people who don't understand the dominant language of the court.
Yeah, it really shows how AI has the potential to break down barriers and make the legal system more inclusive.
But of course, any new technology has potential downsides.
Mm.
What does the report say about the risks of using AI in courts?
Well, the report talks about both the benefits and the risks.
Right.
One of the big concerns is that AI systems might make existing biases even worse. Because if the data used to train these systems is biased, then the AI will be biased too, and that could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just assume that AI is objective or neutral. We need to be really careful about how these systems are designed and implemented.
Exactly, and that's where the report's 13 principles come in.
Okay.
These principles are meant to guide the ethical and responsible use of AI in courts.
13 principles. Wow.
Yeah, covering everything from data protection and transparency
Yeah.
to human oversight and accountability.
Okay, can you give us a rundown of some of the key ones?
Sure, one of the most important principles is transparency.
Okay.
This means that judges and lawyers need to be upfront about when and how they're using AI tools, especially when those tools could affect someone's rights in a legal case.
So no hiding behind the algorithm. People have a right to know how decisions are being made, especially when those decisions could have a big impact on their lives.
Exactly. Another crucial principle is the protection of human rights.
Of course.
The use of AI in courts should never come at the expense of fundamental rights, like the right to a fair trial, the right to privacy, and the right to non-discrimination.
So it's about making sure that AI is used to uphold justice, not to undermine it. And this is relevant to everyone, right? This isn't just some abstract legal debate. It's something that could potentially affect anyone who finds themselves involved in a legal case.
Yeah, that's a great point. This isn't just about lawyers and judges, it's about all of us. The way AI is used in courts could affect society as a whole. It could impact our access to justice, our faith in the legal system, and even our basic rights.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. AI is already being used in courts around the world.
Right.
It has the potential to both help and hinder justice, and there are principles in place to guide its responsible use. But now I want to dig a little deeper. Let's talk about generative AI.
Generative AI systems like ChatGPT are a real game changer. They can generate text that sounds like it was written by a human, which raises a whole new set of possibilities and concerns when it comes to the legal world.
Yeah, I've heard stories about these AI chatbots spitting out made-up legal cases and rulings, what they call hallucinations.
Yeah.
That's pretty unsettling when you think about it.
It definitely raises concerns about accuracy and reliability.
Yeah.
The report really stresses the need to carefully check anything that's generated by AI. You can't just take it at face value.
So judges and lawyers can't just plug a few things into ChatGPT and call it a day.
Right.
They still need to do their own work and think critically.
Absolutely, and again, the transparency is key.
Right.
If a judge or lawyer is using something like ChatGPT to help with legal research or writing, they need to be upfront about it.
Well,
It's about maintaining the integrity of the legal process.
this is all really fascinating,
Yeah.
but it can also feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah,
It's a lot to take in for someone who's not a legal expert. So can we break it down a bit?
sure.
Let's talk about the concrete steps that are being taken to ensure responsible AI use in the courts.
Okay, the UNESCO guidelines we've been talking about actually offer some pretty specific recommendations for both organizations like courts and tribunals and individuals like judges, lawyers, and support staff.
Okay.
It's like a roadmap for navigating this new territory.
Okay, that sounds helpful.
Yeah.
Let's start with organizations. What are some of the key recommendations for them?
Well, one of the most important recommendations is to do something called an algorithmic impact assessment before they start using any AI system.
Algorithmic impact assessment.
Yeah, it's basically a thorough evaluation of how the AI might impact human rights fairness and due process.
So it's like a safety check, making sure the AI isn't going to cause any harm or make biases worse.
Exactly. The report also says that transparency is really important when it comes to data.
Okay.
Organizations need to be clear about what data they're using to train their AI systems, where it came from, and how it was collected.
Yeah, because we all know that garbage in equals garbage out.
Exactly.
If the data is flawed, the AI will be flawed.
Right, and it's not enough to just assess the AI before it's used. Organizations also need to keep an eye on how it's performing, making sure it's doing what it's supposed to and not causing any unintended harm.
So ongoing vigilance is key. We can't just set these AI systems loose and hope for the best.
Right, and that brings us to another important recommendation: training.
Okay.
Organizations need to give their staff comprehensive training on how to use AI tools responsibly and ethically.
So equipping them with the knowledge and skills to be responsible AI users.
Yeah, that makes sense. The report also suggests having clear guidelines and protocols for using AI, as well as ways for people to report potential problems or biases.
Boy.
It's about creating a culture of accountability and continuous improvement.
So it's not just about implementing the technology. It's about creating a whole ecosystem around it to ensure it's used responsibly. That sounds like a big job.
It is, but the stakes are high.
Yeah.
We're talking about the future of justice here. We can't afford to cut corners or take risks when it comes to AI in the courts.
Okay, so we've covered the organizational side of things.
Right.
What about individuals?
Okay.
What are some of the key recommendations for judges, lawyers, and other legal professionals who are using AI in their work?
Well, first of all, the report stresses that it's important not to rely too much on AI systems.
Okay.
These tools should be used to help human judgment, not to replace it.
Okay.
Judges and lawyers should never blindly follow what the AI tells them.
Right.
They need to use their own expertise and critical thinking skills.
So keeping a human in the loop, so to speak.
Exactly. AI should be a tool that empowers legal professionals, not one that diminishes their role or undermines their judgment.
Huh.
And that brings us back to transparency. If a judge is using AI to help make a decision, they need to tell the people involved in the case about how it's being used and what impact it might have on the proceedings.
So no secret AI whispering going on in the courtroom. Transparency is essential for maintaining public trust and making sure that everyone feels like they're getting a fair shake.
Absolutely. And just like with organizations, the report emphasizes the need for continuous learning and development when it comes to AI.
Okay.
Judges and lawyers need to stay up to date on the latest developments in this field,
Right.
understand the potential benefits and risks, and be prepared to adapt their practices as the technology evolves.
So it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's about ongoing education and a commitment to using these tools responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. And finally, the report encourages judges and lawyers to give the people involved in a case a chance to challenge decisions that were based on AI. This allows for scrutiny and ensures that potential biases or errors can be addressed.
That's a good point. It gives people a chance to raise concerns and make sure that the AI isn't unfairly tipping the scales in one direction or another.
Right. It's all about making sure that the use of AI in the courts is fair, transparent, and accountable.
Yeah.
And it's about remembering that in the end, justice is about people, not algorithms.
Well said. Okay,
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From real-world examples of AI in courts
Yeah.
to the potential benefits and risks, the principles for responsible use, and the specific recommendations for organizations and individuals.
We've laid the groundwork for understanding this complex and rapidly evolving landscape, but this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll go even deeper,
Okay.
exploring the recommendations for using generative AI and the bigger implications of AI for the future of justice.
I'm looking forward to that. Join us next time as we continue our exploration of this fascinating and crucial topic. Until then, keep those brains buzzing.
See you next time. Welcome back to our deep dive into AI in the courts.
So last time we were talking about generative AI.
Right, those powerful tools like ChatGPT that can create text and even code.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting, maybe even a little sci-fi-ish.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. What does the UNESCO report say about using these tools responsibly in a legal context?
Well, the report emphasizes awareness first and foremost.
Okay.
Judges and lawyers need to really understand how these tools work, what their limitations are, and what risks they might pose.
Okay.
Just because an AI can generate a legal argument that sounds really convincing
Yeah.
doesn't mean that argument is accurate or ethical.
It's like we're training a whole new generation of digital lawyers,
Yeah,
but we need to make sure they're equipped with the right ethical compass.
that's a great way to put it. The report also highlights the importance of protecting personal and confidential data when using generative AI. Judges and lawyers shouldn't be feeding sensitive information into these tools, especially if they're using public chatbots where that information could be exposed.
Yeah, data privacy is a huge concern these days, and it's even more critical when we're talking about the legal system.
Right.
You wouldn't want sensitive case details ending up in the wrong hands.
Exactly. And speaking of caution, the report also warns against using generative AI as a replacement for legal research or analysis.
Okay.
These tools can be helpful for brainstorming or getting a quick overview of a topic,
Yeah.
but they shouldn't be relied on for accurate legal advice or decision-making.
So AI can be a helpful assistant,
Right.
but it shouldn't be calling the shots. Judges and lawyers still need to do their own research and analysis,
Yeah,
using AI as a tool to augment their expertise, not replace it.
exactly. And just like with other forms of AI, transparency is really important when it comes to using generative AI.
Okay.
If a judge or lawyer uses ChatGPT to help draft a legal document or argument, they need to be upfront about it and make sure everyone involved understands how it was used.
So no sneaking in AI-generated content and passing it off as their own work.
Right.
That would definitely erode trust in the system.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining the integrity of the legal process. Now, while the report covers a lot of ground, there are still some open questions about the use of AI in the courts. For example, how do we balance the potential benefits of AI with the need to protect fundamental rights? How do we ensure that AI systems are used fairly and equitably, especially in cases involving vulnerable groups?
Those are some big questions, and it sounds like this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation.
It is.
As AI technology continues to evolve, so too will the ethical and legal challenges it poses for the justice system.
Absolutely. We need to stay informed, engaged, and keep asking those tough questions to make sure that AI is used to promote justice, not undermine it.
Yeah.
The UNESCO report provides a solid foundation, but it's up to all of us to keep the conversation going and make sure that AI is used responsibly in this critical domain.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that the report offers specific recommendations for both organizations and individuals.
Right.
We've talked about the importance of organizations conducting those algorithmic impact assessments and providing training to their staff.
Yeah.
But what about the individuals who are actually using these tools every day? What are some of the key takeaways for them?
Yeah. What advice does the report offer?
Well, one of the most important things is to be aware of the potential for bias.
Okay.
Generative AI systems are trained on huge data sets.
Right.
And those data sets can reflect existing societal biases or contain factual inaccuracies.
Yeah.
So individuals need to be on the lookout for these potential problems and not just accept the AI's output as the absolute truth.
It's like with any source of information,
Right.
you need to be critical and discerning, not just take everything at face value.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the importance of critical thinking.
Yeah.
Just because an AI can generate a legal argument that sounds plausible doesn't mean that argument is actually sound or ethical.
Mm.
Individuals need to apply their own legal knowledge, reasoning skills, and ethical judgment
All right.
to evaluate any AI-generated output.
So it's about using AI as a tool to enhance human thinking not to replace it.
Exactly.
We still need those sharp legal minds to analyze, interpret, and apply the law,
Yes.
even when AI is part of the equation.
Absolutely. And it's not just about spotting potential biases or errors.
Okay.
Individuals also need to be mindful of data privacy and confidentiality.
Right.
They shouldn't be putting sensitive case information into public AI tools or sharing confidential data in ways that could compromise client privacy.
It's like we need a whole new set of digital ethics guidelines for the legal profession.
That's an interesting thought, and it speaks to the bigger issue of how AI is changing the very nature of legal practice.
Yeah.
We need to be having these discussions now as the technology is still developing to make sure that we're using AI in a way that upholds the values of justice and fairness.
Okay, so individuals need to be aware of bias, exercise, critical thinking, protect data privacy, and basically approach AI with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, the report also emphasizes the importance of transparency.
Okay.
If a judge or lawyer is using an AI tool in their work, they need to be upfront about it with all the parties involved in the case.
So no hiding the AI in the closet.
Right.
It needs to be out in the open so that everyone understands how it's being used and can raise any concerns they might have.
Exactly. Transparency is crucial for maintaining trust and ensuring a fair process.
Yeah.
And it's connected to the broader principle of accountability.
Fair.
If something goes wrong, if the AI makes a mistake or produces a biased outcome, there needs to be a way to trace it back and hold someone responsible.
It's like creating an audit trail for AI so we can see how it's being used and who's making the decisions.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights the need for clear guidelines and protocols for using AI in legal settings. We need to establish some rules of the road so that everyone knows what's allowed and what's not, and so we can make sure AI is used in a way that promotes justice and fairness. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the specific recommendations for using generative AI to the broader principles of transparency, accountability, and ethical decision-making.
Right.
But I want to zoom out for a moment and think about the bigger picture. What does the increasing use of AI in the courts mean for the future of justice?
That's a huge question, and it's one that's generating a lot of debate and discussion around the world.
It is.
On the one hand, AI has the potential to make the justice system more efficient, accessible, and even-handed.
Yeah.
Imagine AI tools that can help reduce case backlogs, provide legal assistance to people who can't afford a lawyer,
Right.
or identify and mitigate biases in decision-making.
Those are some compelling possibilities.
Yeah, it sounds like AI could help level the playing field and make justice more accessible to everyone.
Exactly. But on the other hand, there are some real concerns about the possibility that AI could erode fundamental principles of justice, like due process fairness and human dignity.
Okay.
If we're not careful, AI could be used to automate decisions that should be made by humans, reinforce existing inequalities, or even create new forms of discrimination.
So it's not a simple equation.
No.
AI equals good or AI equals bad. It's much more nuanced than that.
It all comes down to how we choose to develop, implement, and govern these technologies.
Cool.
We need to be proactive and thoughtful, anticipating potential problems and putting safeguards in place to reduce risks. And we need to have open and honest discussions about the values we want to uphold in our justice system and how AI can help or hinder those values.
It's about striking that balance,
Yes.
embracing the potential of AI, while also being aware of its limitations and potential pitfalls.
Right.
It's about making sure that technology serves justice, not the other way around.
I completely agree. And it's a responsibility that we all share, not just legal professionals or policymakers. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of justice.
Okay.
And we all need to be part of this important conversation. You mentioned earlier that one of the main concerns with generative AI is that these systems could create false or misleading information.
Right.
We've all heard those stories about AI chatbots spitting out fake news
Yeah.
or generating content that's impossible to distinguish from human-written text. How does this play out in the legal world? What are the risks of AI-generated misinformation in a court of law?
That's a great question, and it's one that's starting to get a lot of attention from legal experts and ethicists.
Yeah,
The potential for AI to generate false or misleading information is a serious problem,
it is.
especially in a legal context where accuracy and truth are so important.
Absolutely.
Just imagine an AI chatbot being used to create a legal brief or a court filing,
Yeah.
and it accidentally includes made-up case law
Yeah.
or misrepresents the facts of the case.
Right.
That could have really serious consequences for the people involved.
Absolutely. And it's not just about unintentional errors.
Like,
Someone could deliberately use AI to create fake evidence or spread disinformation in order to manipulate the legal system for their own benefit.
That sounds like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
But it's a very real possibility. We've already seen how deepfakes and other AI-generated media can be used to deceive and manipulate people in other situations.
Right.
It's not hard to imagine those same tactics being used in courtrooms.
Exactly. And the problem is it can be really difficult to spot AI-generated misinformation.
Yeah.
These systems are getting better and better at imitating human language and behavior,
Right.
making it even harder to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake.
So it's not enough just to know that AI can create false information.
No.
We also need to develop ways to detect and debunk that misinformation.
Absolutely. We need to put resources into research and development to come up with better ways to authenticate digital content and identify AI-generated fakes. And we need to educate judges, lawyers, and the public about the dangers of AI-generated misinformation so they can be more careful about the information they consume. It's like entering a whole new world of information warfare.
Wow.
Where the battles are fought in courtrooms and the weapons are algorithms and data.
That's a powerful image, and I think it really captures how serious this is.
It does.
We need to be ready for this new reality.
Yeah.
And that means investing in the right tools, training, and safeguards to ensure AI is used to support justice, not undermine it.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for AI to perpetuate bias, to erode privacy, and now to create misinformation. It's starting to seem like AI is more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, I understand that perspective.
But there must be some positive ways to use AI in the legal field, right?
Oh, absolutely. While it's important to be aware of the risks, it's also important to remember that AI can be a powerful force for good in the legal system.
Okay.
We've already talked about how AI can be used to increase efficiency, improve access to justice, and even help reduce bias in some cases. Right, and I imagine it could also play a role in things like legal research, contract review, and even predicting the outcome of cases.
You're exactly right. There are already AI-powered tools that can help lawyers and judges with legal research, making it faster and more efficient. They can also help analyze complex contracts to find potential risks or loopholes, and even predict how likely a case is to succeed based on past data and legal precedents.
Those sound incredibly useful for legal professionals.
They are, and as AI technology keeps getting better, we can expect even more innovative applications in the legal field. For instance, some experts believe AI could eventually be used to help mediate disputes, give personalized legal advice, or even help decide criminal sentences.
Wow, those are some futuristic scenarios. It sounds like AI has the potential to completely transform the legal profession in ways we can't even imagine yet.
I think you're right. But as with any powerful technology, it's our responsibility to make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly. We need to be aware of the risks, but also open to the possibilities and willing to explore how AI can be used to create a more just and equitable legal system. So to sum up, we need to strike a balance between embracing the potential of AI and being cautious about its limitations and potential downsides.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
It is. We need to make sure that technology serves justice, not the other way around.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot in the second part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the specific recommendations for using generative AI, the broader implications for the future of justice, and the importance of public engagement in this crucial conversation. But there's still one more piece of the puzzle. We need to look at the human element.
You're right. We can't talk about AI in the courts without talking about the humans who are creating, developing, and using these systems. And that's where we'll pick up in the third and final part of our deep dive. Join us next time as we explore the fascinating and challenging question of human bias in AI.
It's a topic that really gets to the heart of what it means to be human in an age of intelligent machines. Don't miss it. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into AI in the courts. We've talked about a lot already, from real-world examples of AI being used in courts to the potential benefits and risks, the principles for responsible use, the specific recommendations for organizations and individuals, and the broader implications for the future of justice. But now I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, or should I say the elephant in the algorithm, the human element.
Exactly. We can't really talk about AI in the courts without considering the humans behind it all, the ones who are actually designing, developing, and implementing these systems. And that brings us to a topic that's often overlooked, human bias in AI.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the technical stuff about AI, but we can't forget that these systems are ultimately created by people.
Right.
And people, well, they have their own baggage, their own perspectives, experiences, and biases.
Absolutely. And those biases, which are often unconscious, can actually make their way into the very core of the AI systems we create.
Hmm.
Think about it. If the team that's developing an algorithm to predict, say, recidivism rates,
Okay.
is mostly made up of people from a particular socioeconomic background, their understanding of crime and what causes it might be limited,
Oh, yeah.
leading to results that are skewed.
So it's not just about the data that's used to train AI systems.
Right.
It's also about the people who are choosing that data,
Right.
interpreting it, and designing the algorithms themselves.
Exactly. It's a complex issue that needs a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
One really important thing is to promote diversity and inclusion in the field of AI development.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If the teams creating these systems are all the same, lacking representation from different backgrounds and points of view,
Right.
their own biases are more likely to show up in the technology.
It's like that saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Mhm.
If we want AI systems that are truly fair and impartial, we need to make sure the people building them represent the full range of human experiences.
So we need people from different races, genders, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds, all of it.
Exactly. The more viewpoints we bring in, the better we'll be at recognizing and mitigating potential biases.
But it's not just about checking boxes, though, right?
Right.
It's about creating an environment where all those different voices are actually heard and valued,
Absolutely.
where people feel comfortable speaking up and questioning assumptions.
We need to do more than just hire a few diverse people and call it a day.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where everyone feels safe to share their opinions,
Okay.
even if those opinions go against the grain.
So it's about fostering a space where constructive criticism is welcome
Exactly.
and where everyone can learn from each other's experiences and perspectives.
Right. And this connects to another key part of addressing human bias in AI, developing a culture of critical thinking.
Okay.
We need to train ourselves to question our own assumptions,
Yeah.
to recognize our own biases, and to be open to having our own views challenged.
It's like looking in the mirror and asking ourselves,
Yeah.
what am I bringing to the table?
Yeah.
What are my blind spots?
Yeah.
How might my experiences be influencing my take on this?
Exactly. It's an ongoing process of self-reflection.
Right.
And it's crucial if we want to create AI systems that are truly fair and just. We can't just assume that our own view is the only right one.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to listen to and learn from others.
And that brings us back to what we've been talking about before, transparency and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to trust these AI systems to play a role in our legal system,
Yeah.
we need to know how they operate, what data they're using, and who's making the decisions about their design and implementation.
Transparency is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
We need to be able to track decisions back to where they came from, understand the reasoning behind them,
Okay.
and identify any potential bias or mistakes. And we also need ways to hold people responsible
Yeah.
when those biases or errors result in unjust outcomes.
Yeah. So it's about having a system of checks and balances
Exactly.
where no single person or algorithm has too much power.
We need to build safeguards into the system to
Right.
make sure AI is used responsibly and ethically. And we need to make sure individuals have the ability to challenge decisions they think are unfair or biased.
That's like we need to put the human back in charge,
Right.
reminding ourselves that ultimately justice is a human endeavor, and we can't just hand over our responsibility to algorithms.
You put it perfectly. We need to be the ones safeguarding justice, making sure AI works for humanity, not the other way around.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
And I think it really sums up the essence of this entire conversation.
Yeah.
We need to be mindful of the risks of AI,
Yes.
but also embrace its potential.
Definitely.
And most importantly, we need to remember that technology is just a tool.
Uh-huh.
It's up to us to use it wisely and ethically to create a more just and equitable world for everyone. So that wraps up our deep dive into AI in the courts. We've explored a lot of different facets of this complex and evolving issue, but this is just the beginning.
It is.
This conversation is ongoing, and it's one that we all need to be a part of. So keep learning, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep talking about these issues.
Absolutely. The future of justice depends on it. Thanks for listening.
And be sure to check out the show notes for links to the UNESCO report and all the other resources we talked about in this episode. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.